been co-opted by the centralizing cartel of bankers who have played the system and gamed the system and printed lots of fiat money. I'm not talking about Sam Bankman-Fried.
Hey guys, welcome back to Library of Wealth. Today we have Bitcoin maximalist Max Keiser giving us an update on how the Fed money printing is affecting inflation and why the recent crash in the crypto market happened. With cryptocurrency going through a difficult time, Bitcoin has also lost 30% of its value just this year. Investors and crypto analysts say that whenever there's a sell-off, to be aware of any projections that indicate a lower price point of the prevailing downtrend. Keiser has been warning people that fiat currencies would collapse and why Bitcoin is a significantly better store of value. The pricing on Wall Street continues to erode trust with investors, and we're starting to see the negative effects of that now. Let's get into the interview with Max Keiser as he gives his prediction on the market collapse and how this will affect Bitcoin in the next few months. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here on this channel. Let's get right into the video.
This is another Washington program cooked up not too long ago where the United States identified all the countries that it needs to invade and exploit to your buddies on Wall Street ad infinitum, make a lot of fees. There's no economic justification for it. It adds nothing to the economy. It's a purely self-serving rentier model where a lot of insiders get rich. When you take the state out of money, you end up with a society that's more egalitarian, altruistic. It's a new social contract. You know, the United States is the product of the age of enlightenment, the age of human rights, the idea of an enlightened social contract between the governed and the governance and those being governed, and the idea that there's a quid pro quo and that there's somehow going to be an ability to live in concentrated populations in a way that's mutually beneficial for all, and we came up with something called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and government by and for the people, and that's been really effective for a while, but in the last 50, 60 years, it's been co-opted by the centralizing cartel of bankers who have played the system and gamed the system and printed lots of fiat money. I'm not talking about Sam Bankman-Fried. I'm talking about Alan Greenspan, Hank Paulson, Ben Bernanke, Jay Paulson. They're no different than Bankman-Fried. They're no different. They're the same, cut from the same cloth. They just print money, and they buy political influence so that it's easier for them to print more money to concentrate power because they're dictators, because they are trying to drive us back to feudal times, neo-feudal times. All wealth is concentrated in the top 1/10 of 1%, and everyone else is a serf.
Keiser goes on to say that any time a collapse happens, investors' timelines get distorted. During periods of extreme volatility, the price of cryptocurrency can skyrocket and crash within just a few months. The recent international conflicts have caused global markets to remain volatile, and uncertainty has followed close behind. Keiser believes we are on the verge of a total financial collapse.
People are working in a way where they're not trying to just make more power so that they can survive by being more corrupt. They're working because they want to add something to society. You know, I'm so old, I remember back in the 1960s where people did just because they loved to do it, not because they were crooks. And we just have lost that as a society. Everyone in this society is trying to be a bigger crook than their neighbor, than their president, than their associates. It's all crooked. It's crooked from the top all the way down. And Bitcoin, it puts a spanner in the works because a lot of people, believe it or not, if they're good at doing something like making poetry or baking cookies or taking care of kids or being a nurse or a firefighter or something like that, they're happy doing it because they like doing it. They're not greedy. We've destroyed everybody with this money printing and easy money and 0% interest rates. And Bitcoin restores price discovery. It restores the idea of value, not only of your money, but values as a society. And that goes throughout the entire community, and it has a multiplying effect. You know, you see it here. We get rid of the gang members, and you got 5,000 pupusa sellers. They just got a 20% tax hike because they got rid of the gangs that were extorting $6 billion a year from everybody in this country. That's a $6 billion gift back into the community, and now they're hiring other pupusa sellers to work for them, and they're hiring more pupusa sellers, and it's becoming an entrepreneurial virtuous cycle, which is what you want. People like Alex Gladstein at the Human Rights Organization will say that Bitcoin is a Trojan horse that is working its magic here despite the intentions of leadership. I would say it's the defining characteristic of Bitcoin, and that is that you separate money from state. So never before in history has this been possible. All forms of money, even gold, suffers from interference by the state, centralization by the state. Certainly this is true of fiat money. But with Bitcoin, you have pure decentralization. It's unconfiscatable, it's uncensorable, and the state is really outside of controlling this money. And once you take the state out of the equation, you have a whole new model for governance of an economy, a governance of a country, governance of the money. So the IMF, as we all know, is part of the central banking cartel, which has had free reign all over the world in imposing a US dollar standard and imposing conditionality for their loans. Anyone who's read Confessions of an Economic Hitman knows the deal. The IMF comes in, other organizations come in, and they load you up with debt, and if you can't pay the debt and extract all your resources and keep you as a third world nation, then they send in the economic hitmen, and your presidents start flying out of airplanes. With Bitcoin, all citizens become self-sovereign. When they take control, this is the exact opposite of a dictatorship. A dictatorship, by definition, is centralized with centralized control. And if you're giving people self-sovereignty and they have their own private keys and there's unconfiscatable wealth, that's the opposite. You're freeing your people. You're freeing the people. If you think this is a dictatorship, you don't know the definition of dictatorship, or you're a fucking spook spreading lies for your handlers at the IMF. It's not the Washington Consensus, which is a model that's been in place for many years. This is actually the guiding principles that are in place for the colonialization of Central America and Latin America.
Wall Street and Silicon Valley are now doing what the early Bitcoin investors were doing in 2017. With 380% collapses so far in Bitcoin, the next few months will determine how it will bounce back. In the meantime, some experts predict an $8,000 bottom price for Bitcoin soon, seeing a recent 70% downturn since its $30,000 price point in June. If their forecast comes true, it would inflict further pain on Bitcoin and the broader cryptocurrency market, which has seen around $500 billion wiped off its value in the past month. Most agree that Bitcoin will survive this cycle, but this is eerily similar to the dot-com bubble of the early 2000s. While most major cryptos are spending much of the day in the red, ongoing investor fears about inflation and a possible recession grows as central banks tighten monetary policy. What do you think about Max Keiser's prediction for Bitcoin? Comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.